Hey y'all, welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. I am starting off this Monday with some pure comfort food, and that is this ravioli lasagna. I've made it a few times on this channel, and it just couldn't be easier. So I am going to switch it up a little bit. Normally I cook in some ground beef with my sauce, but I decided to do some pepperoni this time because I know my kids will like it better that way. Normally they pick out the meat, so instead of wasting, we're just going to try it this way and see what they think. So for the ingredients, you're just going to need some frozen cheese ravioli. That is why this recipe is one of my favorites, because you don't have to pre-cook it. You just throw it in frozen and it fully cooks in the oven perfectly. Like I mentioned, pepperoni, of course. This is my favorite spaghetti sauce because it is completely smooth. It's not sweet, it's more on the salty side, which is what I prefer. And I think it's perfectly seasoned, and the price, you just can't beat it. I don't know if I'll use all of this, but I would rather have more on hand than not enough. I don't want this to be dry. I'm also going to be using some of this grated Parmesan cheese and then some shredded mozzarella. I'm going to finish off this open bag first and go from there. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm just going to assemble this into this 8x8 casserole dish that I'm going to spray with some non-stick cooking spray. So, update, I only needed one of those cans for this size casserole, so I can just go ahead and put that back in the pantry for another use. And I am going to pop this in my oven for 35 to 40 minutes. Here it is, straight out of the oven. I'll probably let it sit for about 10 minutes before I cut into it, so that it's not a complete mess on my plate. And then I will sprinkle on some parsley for some color. And then for the sides, I have steamed up some broccoli, and then I squirted some of this, I can't believe it's not butter, stuff on it, and sprinkled on this garlic, ranch, and chive seasoning. It's so good on broccoli. And then I have just air fried some of these Great Value garlic breadsticks. These are one of our favorite things to buy. And I just cooked those at 350 degrees for 7 minutes. Here it is, all plated up. If you have not tried this casserole before, you seriously need to. It is amazing, and it's super kid-friendly. Up next, I have had this bourbon pork seasoning in my pantry for a little bit. It caught my eye at Walmart, and I wanted to see if it was any good. So I just have about 1 pound of a pork tenderloin on my tinfoil lined cookie sheet, and I spreaded a little over half of that packet over top of the meat. And then I took some russet potatoes and just washed those, of course, and cubed those up, drizzled them with some olive oil, and then I just poured that remainder of seasonings on the potatoes. And then, of course, I just simply tossed those together to get everything coated. The packet did say to use sweet potatoes, but I'm the only one in the house that likes those, so I figured the russets would do better. Now back to that tenderloin, I am just taking the seasonings that kind of fell off the top and making sure to coat both sides. And then I'm just going to arrange that into the middle of the cookie sheet. And I'm just going to take my potatoes and line that up around it, spreading it out as evenly as I could to make sure that they all cook evenly. And then I am just going to throw that in my oven according to the package directions. So I have 2 pieces of that pork and then those delicious potatoes. This was good. I wouldn't say it was like, oh my gosh, amazing, but it was a pretty good dinner. And then on the side, I just have some strawberries and some of these Sun Gold kiwis that we are loving. I highly recommend those. Up next, I am making a family favorite, and that is cracked chicken. I feel like this is one of those recipes that is just about as popular as Mississippi pot roast. But I just have a combination of chicken thighs and chicken breast in there. I just cleaned out my freezer, and I am tossing in 1 block of cream cheese, and then you'll need a packet of ranch seasoning mix. I know a lot of people say they can't find it where they are from, so I would recommend to try Amazon. I do know they sell it on there. But I'm just going to pop my lid on and cook it on low for 4 hours. After that time was up, I am just going to take out my little meat chopper here and go to town on it until it looks like the right consistency. You can also use a hand mixer. I've done that before as well. And then we are not done. Once it's shredded, I'm going to top it with some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. And then I have fried up some bacon. I got the good stuff this week. I got the right brand. It's my absolute favorite. And then I just crumble that up, put it on top, and I'm just going to let that go for about another 15 minutes or so, just until everything's melted together. And boom, it is done. I usually serve this on a hamburger bun, but this night we just did it by itself. And then to go along with that, I'm also going to be making some potato wedges. So I just took some russets and cut those into wedges, obviously. And I just let those soak in some ice water for about 30 minutes. This helps remove the starches and what gives you a crispy potato. So once that time was up, I, of course, drained off the water. And then I just took some paper towels and dried those really thoroughly. And I also dried out that bowl that they were soaking in. And I'm just going to add those all back into the bowl. And then give it a good drizzle of olive oil. And then we are going to season it up. I'm going to be using some of this garlic sea salt that I love. I use that in a lot of recipes. I'm also going to be adding in lots of black pepper. And then I'm going to be doing some parsley. A lot of times I add a parsley at the end of recipes, but it's just as good if you cook it in with the food. So yeah, I'm just going to get in there with my hands and get everything coated. And then that's going to go onto a cookie sheet. Once again, an even layer so they all cook right. And then that's going to go in the oven at 450 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes. So like I said, the cracked chicken, it's so good just on its own. These potato wedges turn out perfect every single time. I have some ketchup in the middle to dip that in, and then I just have some asparagus. I cut it up into like bite-sized pieces before I cooked it, just so it could kind of look different on the plate. But yeah, 3 of my absolute favorite things on a plate. And then for the last meal, we are doing meatloaf. I cannot tell you the last time I made one. So I have 2 pounds of lean ground beef. I have added in 1 cup of crushed Ritz crackers, followed by 1 cup of milk. You are also going to need some ketchup. I used half of a cup, and then several dashes of Worcestershire sauce. I just took 1 egg, cracked it in that same measuring cup that I measured everything else out in, gave it a quick little beaten and added it in, and then I'm going to season it up. I'm going to be adding in some onion powder, or you could of course use some real onions if you wanted to. I'm going to be adding in some garlic powder and then some salt and pepper. Pretty much my basic seasoning combo that I use with most things. And then for the not so fun part, I remove my rings and then get in there with my hands and just mix it all up. You don't want to do this for too long or it'll give it a weird texture. But then I'm just going to take a meatloaf pan that has been sprayed with some nonstick cooking spray, add in that meat mixture and just pat it down to make it kind of like flat on top, I guess. And then I always place it on a cookie sheet, so in case any of that grease runs over, you're not going to have like a fire going on in your oven from grease. And then that goes in at 350 for 45 minutes. And then you're going to pull it out and make your glaze, which is just some ketchup, brown sugar, and then this is the key ingredient to make an awesome glaze, and that is apricot preserves. If you haven't tried it before and it sounds weird to you, just try it one time for me. I think you'll love it. And then I'm just going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. And of course, combine all of that together, making sure to really break up the brown sugar so it's not clumpy or anything. And then I'm just going to add that onto the top. A lot of times I do add that full amount, but this time I reserved some to just kind of put on each additional slice if you wanted more. And then that's just going to go back into the oven for an additional 45 minutes. To go along with this, I made a hash brown casserole. So I have some of these Great Value frozen shredded hash browns that I just dumped into that bowl. And then I was halving this recipe, so I originally did half a can of cream of chicken soup, but I did end up adding in that whole can. And then you'll need some sour cream. And then you'll need some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. You can use any cheese you want, really, but that's what we prefer. And then once again, the garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper, but feel free to use your favorite seasonings, whatever you like. And then I'm adding in half a stick of melted butter and just giving all of that a good stir. Like I said, I ended up adding in the rest of that cream of chicken. But then I'm just going to put that into a greased 8x8 baking dish. Spread that out, and then add the remaining shredded cheese, and that's going to go in the oven with that meatloaf at 350 for 45 minutes. This is my absolute favorite meatloaf recipe, and hash brown casserole will always be one of my favorite sides. It goes good with everything. And then I just have some simple peas and carrots on the side. But that's going to wrap up this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing week.